montagne, pour nèg marron en boîte étonne. Nous décider descendre des femmes, l'idée qui fait nous nommer femmes. Et les nous débouler, briller ça qui mauvais, nous gagner liberté. Ensemble, 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 eh oui. Ensemble nous prend bateau, ensemble nous traverser, ensemble nous débattre, les frères pour nous rester ensemble.
Special good evening to our listeners and those of you who have been making it a point of duty to be tuned for the program Talking Time. This evening we'll be talking to Patrick Henderson, better known as Jockey. Jockey has been a very instrumental person in the community when it comes to music, culture, sports, education. You can recall he played a part when the Granby Primary School achieved 16 scholarships in the 70s while the school was managed by then Mrs. Leatham. And then he has been also at the side of the late Honorable Pierre Charles, and he played with Souffle Mouton Chorale. He played, I think, with La Generatale Chorale. So we will talk to him about his additional contribution that he has done and we may not be aware of. He had a reasonable level of education at one of the secondary schools in town and then migrated. And he may have a PhD or bachelor's or a master, I don't know. But we can remember he has a master's. He will tell us in what field. And he also managed the Granby Credit Union. So this is just to give you a little idea of Jockey, what Jockey has, achieved from since he has been active as a responsible person in the community. And he doesn't live, he lives out of Granby, but it's like he's in Granby because he comes here very often. So with us is Mr. Henderson. Thank you for honoring our invitation, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Dangleman. And let me say hello and good afternoon to all your listeners out there. And let me thank you for inviting me to your radio station. But even with that, I must compliment you first on the work that you have been doing for all these years, man. Keeping up this community radio station going. I'm sure it's not an easy task, but you have stuck to it, you are committed to it, and I'm sure Granby is the better for it.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Let's talk a little about you. I can recall when I was a schoolboy at the Granby Primary School, your brother taught me, the late Lambert Henderson. But I get to know you when I came back from Guadeloupe in the 80s. But I heard of you, but I never knew you personally. Why would people of my generation would not know you that much as they knew Lambi?
Because it's funny you say that, because I always, when I meet people and they ask me about who I am, I say I'm Lambert's brother, because everybody knows Lambert more so than me. And that's because I went to high school in town, St. Mary's Academy. And for part of that period, I resided in town at the hostel for one time, with my sister for another time. But I still did not feel quite comfortable being in town. I'm a Granby man, so I reverted back to going up and down every day on the bus on guys like Moses and Tokyo and Tisson from Pishle. I remember these guys fondly, and the guys who I traveled with like Bunty and Perez and all these guys. So I was in town going to school from 69 to from 63 to 69. And then when I graduated from St. Mary's Academy, they asked me to teach French and history. So I stayed on and taught there for 4 years, and the condition was that I'd get half pay, and would get a partial scholarship to go to my first degree. I could not turn that down. So I accepted it and went with it. And the 4 years there were great years. I mean, you had guys like Crispin and Jamala and Max, Masho, a whole bunch of guys from Granby who were at the school at the time, who I taught in third form because I was a few years older than them. So I've got very, very fond memories of this. So and after leaving St. Mary's Academy, Remember, I don't know if you were there at the time, there was a crisis at St. Mary's Academy where the students demonstrated against the Christian Brothers and the school was shut down. So that put a halt on things for a while. And following this, I migrated in 1973 to Iona College, where I pursued a degree in sociology and psychology. And then following that, I just continued on to do a master's in education with a focus on social studies. And on completion of this, I stayed on there for a couple more years. Although I was offered a teaching job up there, I always had my mind set on coming back home and making my contribution to Dominica. So my wife came up at that time, my girlfriend. We got married up there. And then I stayed until she finished a bachelor's degree. And we stayed one more year to wrap up. And then I came back home and was at a teacher's college for 2 years. So I say that to say that that's why you see many people don't know me, especially the younger generation, because I spent quite a bit of time outside of Granby. Although I was out, I was always in that I was involved in activities and programs and projects that involved Granby. Whether I was here or I was overseas, it didn't make a difference.
So when you returned, I think you had your NGO. You were a member of SPAT?
Well, no, I was. Most of the guys at SPAT were my friends, so I hung around. Pierrot and all these guys were part of the Farm to Market SPAT grouping. So I hung around with them. I was not a member of SPAT, but I did some work for them. I did some evaluation for them of the Farmers Union and the group in Marigot. I can't remember the name right now.
Okay.
So I did that. But I want to go back a little. I mean, I although I said I was not there in Granby, but you mentioned Siffle Moutain and Jean Etoile.
Yes.
And while I was in town, they asked me to join Siffle Moutain, which I did.
So this was in the 70s? In the
70s, early 70s.
So you were a member of the Siffle Moutain before La Jean Etoile?
Right, because Jean Etoile came out after Siffle Moutain. And then when Skipper, praise him, when Skipper formed Jean Etoile, they asked me to help them.
You say James Alexander?
Yes. And that's somebody we don't recognize enough, but he has done a lot. So I continued to work with them because what we had to do was to go out to the older folks and have them sing the old songs for us, record it, and then rearrange it so that we could put it on record, because we felt that too many of the old folks were dying and the culture and the tradition was dying in terms of the songs, and we needed to have it on wax so that people would remember them. So we did that, and at the same time we were raising funds to cut the first album. So I worked with them. I wrote 4 songs for them. On each of the albums, the 2 albums they have, I have 2 songs that I wrote.
Okay.
Mama Mama is one of them. Dore is another one. Mamzelle. And I can Free Your Mind. These are the 4.
Okay.
And when we were raising funds, going all over the island, performing for groups and for communities to raise funds to go to Barbados to cut the first album. And I remember the night before I traveled to the US, we were out at some community with a fundraiser. And the next day, Father Thomas took me to the airport and I went. So when I left before they could cut the album. But when they did cut the album, all the guys autographed it and sent a copy for me, which was very nice of them. And then when they did the second one, I was overseas. And they recorded 2 of my songs, although they had some difficulty with one of them. But they managed it. So that's why I say I was still connected in spite of the fact that I was not in Granby.
Okay.
And then we also had the basketball and the cricket and the YCW and all those things I was connected to with Willie and Sherman Del Sol and Perez and all these guys.
So what was the name of the basketball team?
The basketball, okay, there's a group of us who started basketball in Granby. Guys like Perez, Willie Fevrier, Lionel Laville, Louis Letham.
Willie played himself?
Yeah, Willie was on the team. Yeah.
Okay.
Duggan was on the team. We started off as a cricket team called Eagles.
Okay.
And then after a while, we kind of transitioned into basketball. And we set up a half court by the church in Granby. And we transformed the team from cricket into a basketball team. And then we had Cardinals. We used to have games on Sundays afternoons by the church. We had one rim up and a netball rim at the other end, and the crowd was large. And Cardinals came up every time to play with us. It was a good feeling, good camaraderie. And the first team we registered in town was called Nationals. It was sponsored by Elias Nassif at the time, Geneva. And then the second year, Bata Shoes sponsored us, and we became Bata Pros. It remained Bata Pros for a while. I left as Bata Pros, and then found that when I left, they changed it to Heineken Pros. And it was after that, at that time, that they won the championship while I was away, which was a good feeling because Cardinals used to beat us a lot.
So what would be the reason for the team or Bata Pros not continue actually?
Well, it's something where, you kind of pass the baton to the younger ones and then they don't keep it up. Things have changed. At the time when we were Bata Pros and Nationals and Heineken Pros, you had a group of people who took the leadership, like Chingling, Lambert, you had Govan and these guys who were serious and kept the team going. But once these guys kind of left the scene, the younger guys did not really take up the baton and continue in that tradition. So it gradually deteriorated.
So what you're saying now, Granby today and Granby during your young days, it's completely different.
Oh, yeah.
And is there any positivity in the actual atmosphere in Granby?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are positive things. I think it's just that, every society, every community changes with time. Although I don't expect Granby or any other community in Dominica to be the same as it was in the 50s or in the 60s. Things will keep changing, and the way it will be in 2020 is not what it is today. So it will constantly change. My concern, and not Granby only, my concern is that in general, with the changes that are occurring, we are losing some of the culture without capturing it somewhere. So we need to find some mechanism to capture it so that the younger generation can remember what it was like. Even if they don't practice it, they remember what it was like. I know many of our young people will not even know some implements, some animals, some games we used to play when we were young, because it's just lost. And if we don't find a way to capture it and to use it in schools to teach, then we will lose a part of our history and part of our culture. And if we lose that completely, then we become something else, and somebody else is going to control us.
So you as a resource person and a Granburian, in spite of you are not living in Granby actually, how do you see Granby? Are you impressed with the condition that Granby is at the moment?
There are things that have worked very well for Granby. I think Granby have progressed, but there are other elements, and I'm not referring just to Granby. I think it's something that's not unique to Granby. It's something that you find all over the island, where the elements of violence that have crept into our communities, the drugs is part of it. I think somehow in terms of our parenting and our responsibility as parents and taking care of the children, I think that has taken a step backwards. Step backwards in the sense that the concept of parenting seemed to be not what it used to be. People don't take that responsibility, not all, but many don't take that responsibility seriously, or they may not know how to be a parent. So you've got parent and child in the same function, the same jam. I have seen parents take children to a jam, what they call it, and they're under the speaker playing, and the thing is blasting, and don't understand that this is going to affect the child's hearing in the long run. Simple things like that. So from that standpoint, yes, we have lost some things, but we also have made some progress.
The progress is
economically, you can see some progress in the community. I think there are more opportunities, and our young people are taking advantage of the opportunities available, both in education and in culture and in music. I think there are more people into the music field than when we were young.
You mean in Granby or Dominica in general?
In Granby.
Okay.
In particular.
So when you refer to Michael Henderson, your niece, Chobi of the Midnight Groovers,
right,
and some young people who are just trying to make ends meet, and who else can we refer? Nasir Fountain, which is originally from Bagatelle. Where are the other musicians are you referring to?
Well, some of them are not here.
Oh.
Some of them are overseas. But I mean, I remember when they had the reunion, the number of groups you had from Granby who performed, whether it was reggae or whatever they did. But there were lots. I found there were lots of groups and individuals performing. So they are there. We have not harnessed it in a way that we can pull everything together and make an annual thing out of it.
So would
But
you say, if people say that Granby is lacking leadership, would you agree with that?
to some extent, I think we have gotten very individualistic, and that concept of volunteerism and taking the lead, of taking responsibility for things, I think has taken a slid. Part of it has to do with just where our society is, because again, I'll say it's not only Granby, I see it in Marigot where I live, and I think part of it has to do with the way we are socialized. We are not socialized to take on responsibility. And by what I mean by that is, if you observe a child when the child is growing up, children are very curious. If you have had children, and when from the time they're born, they touch and feel things because they're a sponge, they're soaking up everything, they're taking everything they can get. And we as adults now, watching these children, we call them troublesome, and we tell them no, 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 no. All they hear is no, because we don't want to get hurt. So they grow up with this no thing in them. So that's why I tell parents, when a child tells you, when you give a child instruction, they tell you no, and you find the child is rude. The child is not rude. The child is just repeating what you have said to him or her. So we have to understand that.
And if some people say, Jockey, without interrupting you, that politics has really played a negative role in destabilizing the unity that existed before, where people are pro this party, and the sense of enmity grows and deprive the community of being how it was in terms of the solidarity that we had before. You were active at the side of the late Pierre Charles. Would you agree with that?
Well, politics has always been there. I remember the days of Mr. St. Louis and Federal. I remember those days of Freedom Party and Labour Party, and when Freedom Party dominated Granby and Labour was kind of victimized, and when Labour was in control with St. Louis and so on. So it has always been there. I think what has changed is that it has gotten so polarized, and people take the politics to the extreme, that if I support my party, I don't agree with you, and we become enemies. I always tell people, well, while the voter becomes enemy with his neighbor or even his brother or sister, the politicians are toasting each other, drinking their champagne and their whiskey. So we've got to understand what politics is about, and I think we are losing it in that regard.
So you're saying that that type of education is necessary to be used during campaign, where people, the campaign movement is not there to educate people, it's there to win the election.
That's true.
But most of the time you find people have pleasure in disliking others, people who are on the opposite side of either party. So you are saying that you lived in America. Would you compare America to that type of behavior we are experiencing in Dominica?
No, I think you have. I mean, you look at the election campaign in the U.S. There are Republicans, there's Democrats, there's the Liberal Party. People have the right to disagree, and because we disagree does not mean that we can't collaborate. Once the elections are over, then things get back to kind of normal. So I realize also that we are at a different stage in our history in terms of our own development. Remember, we are just about 30 years old as a nation. If you were 100 years old and we were behaving the way we're behaving now, I'd say, yeah, something is seriously wrong. But perhaps it's part of our adolescence and growth that we are going through this stage in our history, in our own development as a nation, that somewhere down the line we will get beyond this very rigid compartmentalization of people as it relates to politics. I'm hoping that we do get beyond it sometimes, and we mature politically.
So would you say the politicians are thriving on the people's ignorance in that context?
Well, politicians all over do that. Politicians enjoy, whatever works for them, they're going to do it. The objective is to win. Alright, so they'll do whatever. And I am not one who supports the kind of politics that we have. Maybe I'm kind of off the cuff on this, in that political parties for me are not important. I think if people were to, my concept of things is that if you and I decide we want to represent the Grand Bay, we go up and we present ourselves and our resume and say, hey, this is why you should vote for me. Here is my resume. Here's what I have accomplished. This is what I have done. and based on this, I want you to vote for me. What we have is not that. What we have, you say, you vote for the party. And so even if the party would send up a broomstick, you still vote for the broomstick. Which is not, to me, we're not mature. That we lack that maturity and understanding of the politics.
So actually, in Dominica, most of our people, would you say that they are not voting for the principle of the political parties,
No.
or they're just voting for benefits?
People are voting because they support their party.
And
They may or may not get benefits. I mean, what benefits we talking about? You have a rally someplace, and people go to the rally and they get free drinks, free rum and cigarette. That's a benefit? No. I mean, they may consider it a benefit, but for me, that's not a benefit.
No, but
it's not supposed to be about benefit. It's supposed to be about country. We're supposed to be statesmen, not politicians.
Okay, lovely. So tell me, I know that you're close to Pierre Charles, and you told me you taught him at school.
He was not in my class. Marsho, the class I taught, he was not in it. I don't remember him being in it.
Okay.
But people like Marsho and Crispin and so on were in it.
Well, you're very close to him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Pierrot and I go back to... Remember, Pierrot was in scouting. We were acolytes. Because he and Lambert perhaps in age closer than me. I was a little ahead of them. But Pierrot was an acolyte. I was an acolyte. Lambert was an acolyte. Pierrot was in the cadet corps. I was in the cadet corps for a while, but prior to him being there. We were in the basketball thing together. We were the Jeune Étoile. He was a member of Jeune Étoile together. So we have this history of working together from our teenage years. So when it came to the point where he got involved in the politics, which I was aware at the time, when I came back, obviously, how could I not support a man like that who had stayed here? I had gone away. He had the opportunity to go away, but he stayed and made the sacrifice and earned the right to represent the people. And therefore, even I remember Freedom Party, some folks from Granville Freedom Party, being was certain these guys, coming at me in 1984-85 to run for them, and I told them no, I will support Pierre Charles because he has earned the right to represent the people. That's how much respect I had for the man, and I supported him. And we had a team that campaigned behind the scenes. I mean, there was the branch. We were not part of the branch. I was never part of any branch or any party, but there were a group of us who met with him and planned and suggested and worked with him throughout his political career.
Oh, so you supported Pierre Charles because he owned the right to represent his constituency.
Yes.
So you're saying it's just for that you support him?
And well, I'm saying that as a friend, number one, as someone I had seen made the sacrifices.
What about the political principle in the leftist direction?
Well, he was leftist. People considered me leftist too. I remember somebody saying.
But were you?
I was labeled a communist.
Were you?
No.
Up till now?
Well, leftist, yes. Communist, no. Leftist
Okay.
in the sense that I believe in social justice.
Chavez, for example.
Well, I don't want to go Chavez. Chavez is recent.
Okay.
I'm talking of the past in the early years.
Okay.
When we looked at community empowerment, we looked at strengthening groups, we looked at development in a communal, cooperative type of way. These are the things that I supported because I thought that those kind of things empower people and communities. If you give people the knowledge and the opportunity to take responsibility for their own development, then we have a better society. You talk about where the leadership now and what has happened. Well, if we're going to do everything for everybody, then obviously you're going to stifle the leadership and development of leadership in the communities.
While the late Pierre Charles was the Prime Minister, how often do you have the chance to have meetings with him and to talk about issues pertaining to our development?
Well, we met almost every month. We'd meet at his home or by record, and as the group that was there even long before he was was Prime Minister, when he was in opposition and so on, the same group that met with him regularly, we continue to meet with him. Yeah.
So the advice that he received from you, did he tap those? Did he work with them?
Well, I mean, it couldn't work with everything. I mean, he is catering to so many different constituencies.
Okay.
You've got different interest groups and so on.
So at the meeting, what he discussed the most, what was the most interesting thing that you would want to share with our listeners that you discussed with him?
I can't remember anything. I mean, I can't think of things specific. Just we talked in general.
General, okay.
Yeah, but I can't think of anything specific.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about Granby and what we can do for Granby.
Yeah.
And even not only him, we continued with John Fabian, meeting and brainstorming about what we can do in Granby. But what we think we can do and what actually happens are two different things.
So when you say you worked with John Fabian as well, so what about Miss Charles? I mean,
Miss Charles, but she's new. I mean, I
have you had the opportunity and the privilege to work with her?
Yes, I've met with her once or twice. I met with the group once by her. Because I always offer my services to whoever, not only the PAL rep for Granby, but the village council.
So as well, yeah.
Because I have worked with the village councils for a long time.
When Mr. Crispin Gregor, the former ambassador to the UN on behalf of Dominica, told me that the technocrats or the base the Honorable late Pierre Charles had, she doesn't command that base. I mean, Mrs. Charles. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think, there are two different people.
And you are...
Miss Charles and Pierrot are two different people. I don't expect them to be the same. And remember, Pierrot built that base over an extended period of time, number one. Number two, Pierrot's involvement in the community. Miss Charles was a nurse, and her involvement has been from a health standpoint. Pierrot's involvement has been from the education, from the sports, and the culture, and you name it. So his involvement has been much broader. And his involvement was not because he wanted to be the representative or he wanted to be prime minister. His involvement was because this is who he was or he is, or in a sense. So I don't think you can compare the two. Because
what would you say it would be a natural thing for people who supported her husband to be surrounding her and giving her all of the necessary help she requires to enable her to perform in the interest of not Granby specifically, but the island on a whole?
Yes.
So why won't you be as active as you used to be with the late husband?
No, I told you I'm open.
She has not approached you?
Yeah, I told you I've met with her once or twice, and I've met with the group.
So when Mr. Gregor said that the technocrats, and he's considering you to be a part of the group in capacity of technocrats, she doesn't command the base. She does not have that type of relationship with the base that the husband had, that would enable her to be more effective in her portfolio as Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports. Would you say the same thing?
No, I think what he probably was trying to say is that the relationship is different, and again, it cannot be the same. It's two different people. I don't think you can make it the same.
But remember, these people ought to be the hierarchies in the village when it comes to the team. And she was probably informed by her husband, and she probably was aware how close that you all were. And if she's there, I don't believe she's there just for personal gain. She ought to be there to enable the community to be as vibrant as it used to be. So if guys like you who are knowledgeable not only in politics, but who can really help her to travel on the correct path, the impression that I'm getting from you is just you made her once upon a time, but not really is a constant thing like it used to be with Pierre Charles monthly.
It's right. Pierre Charles was a monthly thing. No, in her case, it's not a monthly thing. It's we meet now and then. It's not monthly. Maybe I don't know how exactly she operates, but I know that we have met once or twice. Okay. And I met at her house with the group once before.
Okay.
So again, just different styles. Each person has a different style.
Okay. So Mr. Henderson, now we can recall how instrumental you and the late Pierre Charles were during the centers, and you assisted the students for common entrance at the Granby Prime School, and there was 16 scholarship because of your effort in collaboration with Mrs. Litham.
It wasn't. Was it Mrs. Litham? I can't remember.
Yes, it was Mrs. Litham, Teresa Litham. She was the principal at that time. Yeah, and you all helped, giving people the children extra lessons, and they did do very well. They performed very well.
That's true.
And it was the very first time Granby obtained such a large amount of scholarships because of your efforts.
Right.
Tell me, why won't you do the same today?
Well, as I always told you, sorry, I'm always available whenever I'm needed. Now, going back to this time when we did this thing, remember it was a reaction to the pop performance the year before. All right, we decided we had to step in as people from the community who had something to contribute.
Yeah,
we had to step in and do something. The principal was receptive to it. We did it. What happened after that, when the other principal came, which was Sweet Joe?
Yeah, Coffee. Mm.
He was instructed not to allow us to come into the school.
Okay.
So those kind of things, when you run into those kind of blocks, it frustrates you. So you suddenly throw up your arms and you just back off. So we backed off.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
you backed off during the Freedom Party reign.
Right. If the principal were to ask intellectuals or people in Granby who have the time to come and assist with extra lessons, I'm sure they would.
Yeah,
I don't think people would.
But the time that you did it, you all were the one who approached Mrs. Lytham.
Yeah, because there was a crisis.
Okay, and you think there's not the school is doing better now?
Well, I have not. No, I cannot tell you.
So
I have not been close to the school since.
Okay.
Quite honestly.
So your responsibility is challenging that you have no time to monitor.
Right.
Okay.
I have not had the time.
Yeah. Okay. So why do you?
But I do intend to go visit the principal one of those days. I heard there's a new principal there. And I said I want to go talk to him.
Okay, that would be lovely. So tell me, this is a little personal. You're Granbury-an, but you live at Margot.
Yeah.
Tell us the reason. Why are you not in Granby? And I know you've got property that you could be stable there.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. My friends always say, "But why you married somebody from Margot?" I say,
"Not married, but
I tell them,
why you follow your wife?"
I tell them that the girls fired me from Granby. Fired me. So, but when we were planning to settle, we had a choice of here or Margot, and I asked her, and she said, "Well, she takes care of her mom.
Okay.
So she's responsible for her mom. So we had to build up there. Whereas Lambert was here.
Yeah.
And he could take care of my mother. So I agreed. And
so
her mom is still with us. Her mom is 99. And we are still responsible for her.
Okay. How many kids have you now, Jockey?
One.
One boy?
Yes.
Just as myself. And you satisfied with that?
Well, I would have wanted two, but my wife wanted one, and I told her, well, she's the one who was to bear the 9 months pregnancy, not me.
Okay.
So if she decides she wants one, I was not going to go against her.
And it's a challenging thing, eh?
Yes. But her sister has a son who grew up with us, so it's like I have two, because he calls me daddy too. They're the same age as my son. They're like twins growing up. Yeah.
But you don't get vexed, but you don't get angry. You always kind of quiet, cool.
Yeah, well, I have learned over the years that anger does not get you far. I have seen too many people die of anger.
Okay.
I've seen a friend of mine who was angry, quarreling with somebody, dropped dead of a heart attack.
Okay.
I saw my brother's wife, who was hypertensive and diabetic, got upset about something, got a stroke, and died the next day. So I've seen too many in my life. I have seen too many such things that inform me and tell me, you know what? This business about getting all upset and all worked up is not worth it.
Yeah.
So I tell people I count to 10 first before I react, and also getting real upset gives me a headache. Why would I want to give myself a headache?
Okay. So tell me, now you are involved in the Peace Corps business.
Right.
What is your position there?
I am the local director.
So
I'm responsible for the volunteers who are in Dominica.
Okay. So you have been here for you have been holding the position for how long?
15 years.
15, and you like it?
Yeah. True.
Okay.
Well, I have enjoyed it. I told them when I stop enjoying it, I'll leave.
Really, what does the Peace Corps do for, well, not only Dominica there, or probably all over the world? But what do we benefit from them really here?
Well, Peace Corps was established by President Kennedy, and Peace Corps basically has 3 goals. One is to have a skills exchange. So you've got Americans who have certain skills who will come down to various countries and work with them. So I learn, if I'm an American, I come down here, I learn from you, you learn from me. We exchange our skills. That's one. The second one is that it's a cultural exchange, in that it allows Americans to get a better understanding of people in other countries, and the other people in other country to get a better understanding of Americans, because sometimes we tend to believe what we see on television and the soaps is American. It's not. So it helps better understand each other culturally. And the third one is that when they go back home, they can educate Americans about the cultures overseas. So by educating others in America about countries overseas, and by they themselves getting a better understanding of these countries where they work, it means that if for example an American who's a Peace Corps volunteer or were into in a conflict with a local over some foreign matter or foreign affairs matter, foreign policy matter, they will better appreciate the local person's position having lived in this country for 2 years. You see? So if I better understand you and I know you better because of that exchange, then chances of us getting into conflict is lessened, and thus the concept of peace.
Wonderful. So, in terms of education, they do also contribute. They are involved at the schools.
They contribute in different areas.
Okay.
It depends on what area is the focus of the country at the time.
Okay.
At one time, Peace Corps was involved in health, where they were training nurses they were working at the nursing school long ago, when in the early years. At one time, they were heavily involved in education and the schools. At one time, they were involved in agriculture, in cooperatives. So it has changed over the years.
Okay.
At this point, we are focused more on youth and youth development. And we are narrowing it down now to even to focus more on literacy.
Okay.
Because as you know, in our schools, there's a literacy problem.
Yeah.
In our schools. And we're trying to see how we can help the Ministry of Education alleviate some of this problem.
As we speak, there are how many Peace Corps agents on the island?
There are 15.
15.
Yeah.
So how do they do over all the constituencies? Or how do
it's who makes a request. It's not, we don't just place people.
So who is responsible for making the request?
An organization, a school, a government department. It just depends on who.
Oh, okay.
So they would make a request of us, and then we would try to fill in the request.
Okay, that's good, man.
For example, Tetmon Primary School just wrote me and asked me whether look at a volunteer. So I met with them once. I'll meet with them a couple times again.
So can a private business seek for that type of assistance too?
Not a private business, no. A community organization.
Okay.
A government department, an NGO.
Okay.
That kind of thing. A school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have pleasure in working with the Peace Corps.
Yeah, because it's community development.
Okay.
And this is I've done that all my life.
Yeah.
I believe in community development. I believe in empowering communities.
Okay.
So
now you live at Marigot. You live in Marigot. You ought to be living close to the leader of the United Workers' Party, which is Mr. James.
When you say living close to him physically?
Well, Marigot is a wide community, but
right.
I mean, you live in Marigot and he lives there too.
Right.
So do you meet him now and then?
Once in a while, yeah.
So how close are you?
We're friends. I mean, I know Edison for a long time, so we are friends. Yes.
You discuss politics?
Yeah, we discuss politics. Yeah.
And he's aware that you would not give him political support.
Well, no. I mean, no. I think as I remember telling Ruzi once, he told me, "Boy, the fellas in Marigot say you vote for Edison." I say yes. I say I vote based on who the candidate is. In other words, if you send me a broomstick, don't expect me to vote for the broomstick. I'm not that dumb. All right, and I'm not a party person. I don't belong to a party. So I used to come up here and work with Piero, but when I voted in Marigot, I voted for Edison, and people found that strange. That's not strange. It's who is the best, and is who is the best candidate to represent the constituency.
And you will do that today.
Oh yeah, I will vote the best candidate, and that's what I tell young people when I meet them. Say don't look at parties. Look at who is the best candidate to represent the constituency.
So what can your constituency obtain if that candidate his party does not form the government? That's
why we must move away from this business of if you are not in power, then you can't do anything and the constituency suffers. I remember Eugenia Charles saying, don't be surprised if I turn
my eyes
to the constituency.
Yeah.
See, that's terrible. This is not you when you're elected to represent the entire country. And this is why it's about our immaturity as a nation. We need to move away from that. We need to understand, and it's not because I'm in a position that I'm paralyzed and I cannot do anything. If we really focus on empowering people and we work with people, we can help people understand how best that they can work for the development of their community. If you're going to wait for the party in power for your candidate to be in power for things to happen, then to me that's a laziness.
So
It's backward thinking, in my opinion.
if you are at a political meeting somewhere and somebody involved would say something that would not please you, would you walk away?
No, we could get into. Well, it depends on the thing. I mean, if it's a serious issue, we can discuss it as adults. But if it's a nonsensical issue and it's ignorance, I walk away from it. It doesn't make sense.
So when you see there are some comments, for example, he's ugly, he has a square nose, and whatever, and things of that type, how do you see that type of politics?
Well, I'll go back to what I tell you. We are still not a mature society yet politically. And I see those things as, it's offensive. I found it's part of it is ignorance too. Huh? It's not understanding.
But is it ignorance on the part of the person who is on the platform, or is because of the supporters consume that?
The person on the platform is using it against the individual, his opponent. The person who's consuming what he's putting out is taking it literally and using it against the person. Now that can be dangerous, because I remember in the United States that lady Giffon, she had complained about the fact that this gun business is a problem, and that it could lead to people getting hurt, and she did get hurt by some crazy guy with a gun. So sometimes what we say on the platform, or even to people, those of us who are influential, we say things, and people who are listening to us may take it seriously and act on it, and act to the detriment of the society.
So let me ask you: we don't see the people in campaigns asking questions. We are just there to digest.
That's right.
Would you think all that? Yeah. Would you think all that is kind of a primitive way of behaving, or it's kind of as you say, we are extremely young? But the level of education that our leaders have they would be able to really behave differently, no?
Well, I think, again, part of it has to do with our own development and where we are. But I believe that the way, as me personally, and some people tell me I'm crazy to think that way, but I believe if you're going to campaign, you should have town hall meetings where the candidates sit and they discuss the relevant issues with the constituents. Constituents ask questions, you educate them about the issues, and that's to me is the way we should go. So having said that, I don't see any other parties doing what I'm saying there.
So you tend to observe there is a enmity within all of the people in politics here. So it conditions our people's mind to be as negative.
Yeah. I mean, if you support one party, you're against the other one. There's a big divide and a strong enmity between the two, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
So there cannot be logics in there. You support Pierre Charles, and you choose to vote for Mr. James. So there is some logics in that, because you vote for the person because of his capabilities, his capacity in managing the affairs. Right. So you choose them, not a broomstick.
No.
And would people understand that?
No, some people don't like it. I mean, I got blows for it, but that's okay. I can take my blows, and I stand on my principles.
So how would Pierre Charles see that now?
But Pierre Charles knew that.
No, how would he see that? Would it change his feelings?
Pierre Charles had no problem with that. I mean, Pierre Charles and I, when we had our meetings, we disagreed on certain things, but nothing wrong with disagreeing. We can be friends and continue to work. Nothing wrong with a disagreement. Nobody says that everyone should agree with everything. If we all agreed with everything, we would have a boring society. There's strength in diversity.
Yeah. So, how close are you to the Prime Minister of Dominica today?
No, it's not somebody. I mean, I cannot say. I don't know Mr. Scaritis. I know him in that he's the Prime Minister, and I have seen him once or twice, but it's not somebody like. Remember, I'm a different era. I grew up in the era of the 60s and the 70s. Yeah, but so the people I knew are the Rosies and the Pierrots and this kind of people.
And the wheelchairs.
Right. These are the people I grew up with.
Yeah, but that does not mean that a resource person like you are the one directing the Peace Corps, which is a very huge organization,
Right.
Associated with the wealthiest country on earth.
Right.
So that would require you to have a VIP recognition in terms of
from a professional level. Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, if it is a function and I have to be there, yes, but it's at a professional level, not on a friendship kind of thing. It's a
okay.
personal level.
So it's not a person that you will. Okay. So it's different, like Rosy Pietras, as you say.
Yeah.
So how do you see the young Prime Minister today? We are hearing so many things. He's very young. He has been trying his best, and we are hearing so many things. What are the negatives and the positives would you like to talk about for a short time about him?
I don't know if I could talk about negative and positive about him. I just know that it's a difficult country to run, and I'm happy I'm not in his shoes. That's for sure, because this is not an easy economy to run.
So how do you see Granby? You say you have seen some improvement, you see some lovely buildings, but the farming sector, the agricultural industry here is completely down.
Yeah.
And what else can I say? Even, we get some fishes now and then, but Granby is not like it used to be. So what message would you like to share with our Granburians? I know that, as I said, you're a resource person, that they can be less dependent on governmental institutions and support. And, I was speaking to Gregor last time, and he told me we have to create farm groups, and sensitize the young people and try to get things as it used to be during your days. So what would you want to say to them, especially to the young people who may be listening to us at this time?
Well, it'd be nice to think about getting back to what it used to be is kind of nice to think about it, but to make it actually happen, I'm not too sure that we can. I think if we as a society, as a community, look back and see what made Granby tick, what made Granby progressive, what made things work, and try and identify the things that made it work and why, then perhaps we can use this knowledge to move forward with the younger generation now. Remember, the younger generation also is different from us. Younger generation is into the technology. They have phones, they got the internet. They are a whole different world from what we grew up in. So to tell them that we want to do farming and so on without them understanding the whys of it, we're spinning top in mud. And again, not just Granby, but we need to go back to how we educate our children. What is relevant for us as a society, as a community, in terms of education? Is it just to pass as many CXC subjects, all A's, as possible? Or is it to look at what is practical and needed for national development? And I think somewhere along the line, we tend to focus more on the academics rather than the skills, and we need to have a blend of both. We need to introduce a concept in the schools that allow, and both primary and secondary, that allows our young people to be entrepreneurship minded, that they can leave school with ideas of how to make money, how to set up a business, to have their own business, rather than leaving school and expecting government to give them a job. This does not work again. So if we begin to introduce the kind of programs that will have our young people at school running a business, whether it fails or works, it doesn't matter, running a business, profiting from it, sharing the profit, how to manage money, then I think we can begin to change the mindset.
Lovely. So you're saying that it can be done, but you have to start at an early stage with children from preschool to primary, then secondary school. You have to try very early.
Very early, yes.
Yeah, because now what this generation has got in terms of technology has swayed them quite a lot from reality.
And we can use the technology too. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So it's how do we use that technology to our advantage in terms of their development?
I suspect kids like to be praised. They like to be given recognition for the things they do, which is good. And that type of incentive has to be a part of the package.
And this is where, again, the way we socialize our children comes into play. Because all of us know that the way we socialize and we were raised in a way that our parents were not the first ones to praise. If you come home and you say, "Mommy, I got 70," instead of saying, "Well done," they say, "That's not good enough, you have to do better." So you really need to give positive reinforcement to the children in order to help them grow. But what we traditionally have done is to give negative. We are not the kind of people to give positive reinforcement, to give encouragement. We like to bring down.
We are skillful in discrediting our own selves. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and that we need to change. That mindset we need to change.
This has to be changed, and we are still young.
Yep. And I talk to parents about it too. I was in Wesley talking to a group of welfare parents, and we talk about those kind of issues. We talk about the anger in them and how you need to be positive with your child, and don't take out the anger on the child because you're destroying the poor child and by extension the society and the community.
Yeah. So, Jockey, Granby, what would you share with us that you loved doing when you were a child going to the boys' school in Granby? What are the things that you can recall that you would like to see existing up till now? I know, probably going to the Mango Doom, Mango Bab and all that.
I don't know if you can get it back again, because I observe that kids today, I mean, you look at mango trees.
They want apples and yogurt.
Mangoes are falling all over the place and the kids are not interested in it. They'd rather have the yogurt, as you say, and the apple, or corn curd and a Coke. And not understanding that they're affecting their health. And I think it's important that I mention that our young kids today, Kentucky is another one, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yes.
They don't understand, and they're young, they don't understand the damage they're doing to themselves, and by extension, the society and our health system. A friend of mine, a doctor, told me once, we were talking about growing up and kids and today, and how young girls start menstruating at 9, and they start getting breasts and so on very early. And he's saying it's because of all this chicken that they're eating that has growth hormones in them. And that's why they're growing so fast. And he said, what they don't realize is that just as you see they're growing so fast because of this food that they're eating, it's just so they're going to get old fast. And kids don't, and it's difficult for them to understand, conceptualize that at their age. But we need to remind them of this. And we have so many things around us that we can eat that will keep us healthy. All right? But instead we go for the imported stuff. I say one of those days I'm going to do a poster of all this imported stuff that we use, and do another one side by side of all the local stuff we have. And Bob Marley has, the song Rat Race?
Yes.
And in Rat Race, he has a part that says, "In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty." That's where we are. Because we have everything, the nature, God gave us everything we need to survive healthily on this land. Instead, we have cast it aside, and we are focused on all this Coke and all this Buster and Kentucky Fried and all these imported things that are killing us slowly.
I do agree with you when you say that we are 30 years old, and I think you're right, because I can remember being a little boy, some of the people around would have their kush kubawi, and the French people would come and buy it, and they would buy bed made of iron frames. You see?
Yep.
So it's not being informed. And this is why people like you have to be instrumental in educating the people. And I'm so happy that you are here and you are sharing that with us. Some of the things that we eat also have an impact on our brain, because we cannot suppress pressure. And that's why most of us are so violent, because the type of food we eat, it excites the brain like you become a lion when you are. Just an inch of vexation can make you commit murder. In my days, we would fight with a stone or whatever and run go, and next day our mother would correct us, and that is smooth. But nowadays, should how you say drive-by shooting something?
Drive-by shooting. Not only that, you get into a fight, and even if the child is wrong, the parent come and supports the child. I'll give you 2 examples. I was passing by SMP one afternoon, lunch after school, and 2 kids were in a fight. Young kids. So one was a little chubby guy and another one. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. Wait. I pulled the chubby one aside. I said, okay, tell me what happened. Give me your story. And he tells me the other kid kicked him in his chest, and you could see the footprint on his shirt.
Yeah.
And so that's why they got in the fight. And
Yeah.
he told me that his father told him, anybody who hit you, hit them back. That's what his parent told him. So I tell him, so if you hit it, let's suppose you take a stone, you hit him and he die, what would your parents say? You cannot answer that. I'll give you another situation that I've seen. I was going to work. Grammar school kids from Sophia, Scott said, by close to my office there. There's a big commotion going on and a crowd gather around. And I'm seeing two kids there, two boys thumping each other away. And no one is interfering. So I stopped the vehicle in the middle of the road and went and grabbed one and pulled him aside, separated them. And then the guy I held, he had a cut under his arm and he said, I'm going to kill him. And I said, no, you're not going to kill him, you're going to stay here. When I looked on his back, his shirt was all bloody. So while he's thumping the guy, the other guy has a pair of scissors and he's stabbing him in the back. And he does not know that.
Sure.
I'm saying, what happened? What would have happened had I not interfered? He'd have continued stabbing him and he'd have died. And it's those little things, I think, too often we say we don't want to get involved, even when children are involved in things.
But another thing I suspect, it is in Guadeloupe as well. The young guys, when they fall from the bikes and they've got a broken or whatever leg, they feel proud, like walking, with that type of. It's like they're macho, they're strong, and it's a style. And you see them walking
Really?
the tongue like they call themselves Fewos. So I think, as you say, the food, the technology, and I don't know, some people say America is responsible for the transformation of behavior in the underdeveloped countries. I am not too sure if you can agree with that.
Well, we say that, but again, you have freedom of choice, huh? You accept what you want to accept. As parents, if we are sensitive and educated enough to understand the good from the bad, we will know what to accept and what. America has good. I tell you, America has the good, the bad, and the ugly. I lived there for 11 years, and I enjoyed it. I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I chose to take the good. Some people may choose the bad road and end up in jail, and they send them back down here. But it's a matter of choice. It's the same thing with television. Yes, there's a cultural penetration that has taken place, and it's affecting us. But at the same time, I don't want to put all the blame on America. We have to take some responsibility for what happens to us. Too often, we like to blame others and don't take responsibility for our own actions.
Yeah. So how do you see the future for Grand Bay?
There's work to be done. There's always work to be done. I would like us to focus on the youth in particular. There are more opportunities for sports. I was at the playing field recently with my volunteer who works with the athletes, and I think they took 2 or 3 of them to Martinique recently. And I was telling them that in my days we did not have football or athletics in Grand Bay. We had no decent playing field. Now they have all these opportunities. It's up to them to take advantage of it. So there are opportunities there. It's just that I think sometimes because of the bling mentality, we get caught up in this and we think short term and not long term. If you were to ask a kid, well, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? He most likely will draw a blank because he has not thought of where he wants to be 5 years from now. And also because of the gangster mentality, a lot of our boys see their role models as gangsters. And we need to change that. So we need to work with our youth. And I have committed myself to work with youth, not only in Grand Bay, but anywhere. I always tell youth, whenever you want me to come and have a rap session with you, I am available. I make myself available because they are our future. If we don't, we have to invest in them. And for Grand Bay, if we want Grand Bay to change, we have to invest in our youth.
So would you think of putting a group together, enabling some young resource persons getting together and see how can you bring a little of the spirits of the 70s back in the South?
That would be nice to do. I don't know if it's feasible. I think people have to want it, huh?
I mean, if people like you, Mr. Fevrier, Chris Spring Gregoire, Paul Alexander in St. Thomas, and some of the other resource people come together and announce a public meeting and call on some young people that would want to see how can we transform Grand Bay, because I think Grand Bay is depreciating every second. It's not like as it used to be. Because sometimes I'm standing at the roadside and I see the people's facial atmosphere. You see, there's no joy. People are the people ought to be getting vexed for very simple little thing. People are under heavy stress. Well, I don't want to make that political, but I think it is a problem that I think we need to look at closely. We can be, I think we have the opportunity to be as vibrant as we used to be. Because I'll bring to your attention, this year's carnival was one of the nicest that I have ever seen since I know myself.
Why was that?
Everybody get together, and there were the peace committee, and and some people lost their lives in those type of things. People were asking themselves questions. It's like some lives were lost. Valuable young people who could have made a contribution passed away because of violence, and some of the young people, are realizing they're harming their own economy. They're harming their own. The future of their kids. So I think they have come to the conclusion that they should be a little more social within ourselves and attract foreigners to come and see the type of carnival that we have here, because we have the best. We have the best Sanse, we have the best Tricky Dam, So I think guys like you can see how can you. I know you have a challenging responsibility at the Peace Corps. With the Peace Corps, but I think there are some resource people who are still there who may not want to get involved because they went through so many hard times already. But I think we can give it a try and see how can we make a little contribution to enable the future generation enjoy being Granberrians.
Well, I always, as I told you already, I always make myself available to Granby whenever they need me, and whenever I've been called on to do, like you called me to come to this thing there, I came all the way from Marigot and came to have that interview with you.
Nobody's going to call you, Jockey. I think you are the guys who are responsible. We look at you as the technocrats, the intellectuals. You are people who are very skillful. And I think you consult in your... Well, I don't know if my advice would be okay. But I'd like to see Granby change, because even the Radio Bamako is suffering because of the... poor state of the economy. And I remember Granby was one of the most vibrant economy that we had. There was a bank in Granby. There was food all around the corner. People had good milk. You cannot get milk as before. You don't see that. If you see a bottle of people going on the road selling milk, you have to wake up early. Some of the people even go to Rosa to purchase the greens to resell to the people here, although there are some people who do produce organic vegetables, but some of them would go to town to purchase. So Granby is not improving. I think it's depreciating in terms of economy, social, and I would not want to say education, because there are some people who have obtained scholarships and they're doing well. We have some new doctors, and I think we're doing well in education. Well, not as well based compared to the population of the community, but it's a little good that we can say, well, we have some highly educated people around, but we need to see Granby coming back as it used to be when it was managed by people like you.
But there's also something called fatigue.
That's what
as you were talking about this, and I'm saying, I wonder what would have happened if the things that we had planned to do had come to fruition. I'll tell you why I say that. When we worked for Save the Children, Crispin and I, we had gotten, I think, $250,000 to do a project in Granby at Geneva to introduce, to kind of augment the dairy production. The guys who had the cattle, so we were going to cheese production and so on. And then we were going to introduce the spineless Christophine to Tetmon. In fact, we had sent Nicholas Christian to study the spineless Christophine project in Costa Rica so that we could introduce it up there. And then there were a couple of the projects we were going to do with this money. Happened that the government decided that they don't want us involved. After we had the money already, started the thing. We don't want you all involved in this. Kill the whole thing.
Because of political reasons.
Right. So many times when you try to do things, it's the politics that kills it. And that's why I say we are still politically immature.
Yeah. But with all of the support the Granberrians given to Pierre Charles and your team, we are still not satisfied with what you have achieved.
Well, we should never be satisfied, because development is an ongoing process.
Yeah, but if we have to say when it comes to the achievement, if we have to put it into percentage, we would say it is a 0.7%.
You think so?
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to make my eyes look all over the place.
No, but understand that for the many years that we were with Pierre Charles was in the opposition, and we did things. And I tell you, the big project we had for Granby, they killed it.
Yeah, the $250,000.
Right. So and so that was one of the big things. You look at the other things we were involved in, the sports program, the cultural program. Well, the banana thing was the BMC, but there were things we were involved in that went very well. And
no, it was $500,000 of US dollars. Half a million?
No.
Oh, you see.
$250,000.
$250,000
Yeah,
US?
$250,000 US.
Quarter US,
125,000.
Okay.
So I hear you, yes, but when I look at, if you want me, I can brainstorm a list of things that have happened in Granby nowadays.
Go ahead.
I can't think of it right now.
Okay.
But I'm saying I could give you a list of things that have happened that we have done. Not when I say we have done, people have done in Granby that are positive. Maybe I said it's never enough, but there comes a point in time when you get into other things. For example, I know for me, people ask for my help in Marigot, in other communities, and I give them the help. So while you say that, yes, I should take the lead in making things happen, if I focus too much on Granby, or if I focus only on Granby, then other communities suffer. So I got to spread myself. I remember in the 80s or the 90s, they were telling me that in Marigot was telling me I'm giving all my support to Granby, and Granby was telling me I'm giving all my support to Marigot. So I was torn between the two. So I'm satisfied as far as my contribution in volunteer work to my country over the last 28 years that I've been here, since I came back. I'm very satisfied with what I've done, and I'll keep on doing it. I'll keep on doing what I have to do.
How was it with you at the credit union in Granby, and how long you worked there for?
I was there for about 3 years with them. It was great. It was a time when they were building. We were trying to put things in place. We were moving from the little building where Milner was to a bigger building and trying to put processes in place. So I was very satisfied with what we did there. And my approach to management is always to empower people. So I trained the staff to do the things I was doing myself. So when I leave, they can continue rather than hoard all the information for myself. So you can tell Jermaine is now the manager.
Yeah. So were you satisfied with the growth that existed during
my time? Yeah. And it has. I'm even more so now. It has grown. a lot more. But yeah, if you were to look at the graph in terms of its growth, it was constantly growing. It never took a nosedive. Constantly grew.
And now we have a beautiful village credit union.
Yep.
So what are you proud of in all of these the last 10, 15, 20 years that Granby has achieved? Or what? Personal achievements. Don't need to be group. Don't need to be governmental. It could have been okay. We have to just globalize it. Everything that you would see in the community that you're proud of. Can you share that with us? That probably can encourage other people to do as well.
Well, I'm happy that we have the Geneva playing field.
Yeah.
Because this was a battle to get.
Yes.
I'm happy that we have Matutu's Park.
Yeah.
This was another battle to get. I'm happy that we have the credit union as an institution there.
Yeah.
The youth center, we have it. I think we need to make more use of it.
Yeah.
But it's a facility that's available. I'm happy to see that Tetmon has a resource center now.
Yeah.
Thank God. And I'm looking at working with them up there in terms of placing a volunteer up there at the school to work with them.
Okay.
In that regard. I am happy that there are more sporting activities, although we need to, I'd always said we need to have a club. And now they just formed an athletics club, which is good. And I'm trying to see how we can get more support for them. I know my volunteer has gotten some running shoes for them, and they just put a project proposal. He and Walson just put a project proposal together that I want to take to the diaspora, the Granbarians. I know Granbarians, they always support Granby. So in terms of those kind of things, I want to take it out there and see how we can get their support. One of the things that they wanted to do is to have a synthetic track. And it would be nice if we could get a synthetic track in Granby. They will be the first in the island.
What is that all about?
It's a track that's a kind of you don't run on grass, you run on synthetic leather.
Okay.
Which is what they use in the Olympics. So the problem for our runners is that they run on the grass here, and when they go and compete internationally or regionally, they have to run on the synthetic track. So it's a little different.
Okay.
So I know that they're working on a project to see if they could get one for Granby. But we'd have to get some land around Geneva down by the playing field to do that.
So what is your support towards the geothermal energy?
I don't know enough about it in terms of I have not read enough about it to. I think it's always good to explore other forms of energy, but we've got to be also mindful of the environmental implications, and we've got to balance the two. I don't think we should just go willy-nilly into it without taking consideration how it's going to impact us from an environmental standpoint.
Your local hero who is alive. We don't refer to people who have passed. Let us refer to the people who are alive. We have so many people who have made some valuable contribution. People may not be aware of them. How do you see UNICEF?
UNICEF as an organization? Oh, UNICEF.
UNICEF.
UNICEF, again, here's a guy who was one of the key guys involved in the Geneva uprising, and I don't think he has gotten enough recognition or the credit he deserves. And I'm hoping that down the line we can do something for UNICEF. Definitely, he deserves it. It would be nice for him to do because we're all getting old, and for history we need to do. It'd be good for him to do an interview with someone about this whole thing, give a narrative of it so that it can be recorded. So that's important for him to do.
You probably have a lot of interviews in your archives. I can remember you did the one with Mr. John Wiley.
Yes.
And some of the other guys.
Some of the tapes have gone bad because of the video. I cannot find the audio. I have to talk to Spat to see if we can find it. The only one I found was the one with Morancy, Amos Morancy's father. But the others, because of mildew, many of the tapes went bad.
So is Spat still functioning?
No, Spat is not functioning. I mean, they still have their archives, and I think it's stored at the documentation center. But the organization as such is not functional. Although they're talking about resuscitating it, and Spat did a lot of good work throughout the island. And the NGOs in general. I think one of the problems we have now is because government can only do so much. What they cannot do was that gap was filled by the NGOs, and now that the NGOs are no longer strong, that gap is there and no one is filling it.
Okay. So you are not a member of any political party?
No.
So you're just jockey?
Yep. And I will never be a member of a political party.
And you vote for the person based on his capabilities?
That's correct. And I wish more people would do that.
Yeah. So what would you want Granberrians to do in the next election?
Well, the same thing I tell everybody, look at who is the best candidate to represent the constituency. That's what you got to look at. So no matter which party, you look at the best candidate.
So, would you approve the continuation of Mrs. Charles?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who the other candidate is.
No, man. But based on what you have seen from since you have been there,
look at it this way: she has one-term experience. So, given the fact that she has one-term experience, it would be best to keep her in there because she has learned and grown with it. Right, but as I said, I'm not in the party. I don't know what they're going to do. So
when Granby people, most Granby people are not that 100% hot in wanting to give her the support, what would you think is the reason if you are aware of that?
I'm not aware of it, and everybody people have their reasons for.
So you don't communicate with the technocrats?
With some of them, yes.
So you don't talk that at that level with them.
Well, remember, I'm not a party person, you know. so whatever party secrets they have, they're going to tell me.
Okay.
Which is fine too. I mean,
okay. So you after you leave here, you're on your way to Marigot?
No, I'm going to stay. I have work to do. I have to prepare for some sessions tomorrow, so I'm going to go back and work most of the night preparing for my session.
So you stay in Granby then?
No, I'm going to the office because I have to use the computer.
Okay. So in other words, you don't sleep in Granby from since you left Granby?
No, I've slept there when Lambert was there.
Okay.
Since Lambert died and my mother died.
So only Chicha Lambert and your mother had with your father?
Yes, just the two of us.
Okay, and the others are the first set of children.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, Jockey Boy, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
And if there is something that you want to say before you move, I'm not too sure if my questions really troubled you or I really wanted to trouble you, but
I realize that. Well, you're just doing your job. Okay.
So I enjoyed talking to you, and it's always a pleasure. And you're always calm. I don't know when you're vexed, when you're not vexed. But I saw you just a while ago searching for some words, but was it something that shocked you?
Where was that? When?
I can't recall, but to me...
Well, sometimes, I mean, you got to think before you talk.
I like that.
You cannot just utter with you. You got to think of what you're going to say. You watch Obama in his debate.
Yes.
Obama thinks, or even Clinton. Clinton used to think before he speak.
Yeah. So just to bring a little anecdote to one of the things that you said at the beginning of our discussion here, and I do appreciate quite a lot, is that people tend to hate each other for political reasons. But I can recall when the father of George Bush was prime president, and when they went to invade Iraq in Iraq entering into Kuwait, and after that Clinton won the election and he was not the president anymore, but Saddam Hussein was plotting to assassinate him. Although Bush is a Republican and Clinton was a Democrat, when he got the news, the CIA brought the information to him. He sent a message to Saddam Hussein. If he touched only a pin that belonging to the former president, he is in great trouble with of America in general. Although they are of different political parties, but he was there to defend the former president of America.
That's right.
I like that.
Yeah, because he put the country first. He does put the party first. He put the country first.
Yeah. So, but we have a caller there. Let's see if somebody wants to ask you a question. Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Is there any room for questions for Jockey?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I mean I just wanted to. I don't know. The questions you ask Jockey seem some seem to be a bit bothering maybe to him. I think people like Jockey, they are the resource people. I guess Gandhi has produced a number of quote-unquote resource people. We had the president, but who was born raised in Gandhi. But we need to really return to the plantation. I call it that. The plantation is Gandhi. Come back to get the reality of what's happening on the ground. I heard the mention of the first term experience or whatever, but realities on the ground is different, and then there's a different pulse. And if you have to wait in Abias for 5 years of cultural development and things like that, we have to wait another 5 years again for we should come to us another 20. So it's back another 20 years. I think there's need for fresh blood, for fresh thinking, for thinking out of the box, and there's need for people who are on the ground actually, who have been there in the camp, I see it is what Mali's term, who really feel the pulse of how, and know the pulse of how the direction of Grande should go culturally, economically, should be given a chance to make their contribution towards the development of Grande.
Well, I always say that one does not have to be in politics to make a contribution to the development of their community. So we can work together or we can work apart, but we can all work towards the development of our community. On the issue of new blood, I don't know. I mean, I don't live in Grand Bay, so I don't have my pulse on the ground. But it would seem to me that if someone has been doing something for a couple of years, that they would have learned and have some experience that would be worthwhile. I could be wrong, but I would think so. If I was doing something for 5 years, I would feel after the 5 years that maybe I came in green, I did not know anything, but I would have learned something and be in a better position than someone who's coming in for the first time. It's just logical to me.
Yeah, so this is why people, when you seek for a job, they say, well, you need such and such of papers, but you need 2 years or 3 years of experience. Yeah. This is in that context you're saying that. Yeah. But there are people who are gifted and they just get on board and they perform very well just for the very first time.
That's true.
Yeah, but sometimes experience is required in certain positions, and I think it may be sounding logical when you say that, but the caller seems not to be seeing eye to eye with you in that context.
That's okay. But also, I may say also that many of the guys who were close to Piero working with him are no longer there. I mean, a very few of us are still there. Amoy is there, Willie is there, John is gone, Crispin is overseas.
And none of the people, it seems to me, they're not as supportive as they used to be at the early beginning of the entrance of the PAL rep actual pal rep. They are not instrumental anymore.
Well, maybe people are tired. Maybe people feel that you need to make way for.
Maybe they are tired.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only thing you think you would say, or they're dissatisfied.
It could be too.
I like that.
Yeah, it could be a combination of both. I
Yeah.
mean, people, I remember I worked with the council a lot, and most of the old councillors are no longer there. They probably are tired. I mean, Willie's retiring. Amo has worked all his life with Pierrot going up and down the country. He must be tired too.
Yeah,
So you
but,
need some new people to step up to the plate
But
too.
probably if Pierre Charles was still alive and he was the prime minister, they wouldn't have been as tired as they are today. So they will be
No,
still active.
because he would have mobilized them to be there with him in the regular meetings.
Yeah. So the treatment can get them more fatigué. I'm asking. If the incentives are not there, the recognitions are not there, the VIP status is still not as vibrant as it used to be. So people have to be discouraged.
Or maybe it could be that if you are not asked to, then you just.
You probably have another caller here. Hello.
Frankly, I am listening to this conversation and the discussion, interview, and some of the comments made. I also continue feeling sorry for Gandhi and Frankie. Do we have to give someone another 5 years to cut down 12 mango trees, bro? Which experience do you need for 5 years to know that you shouldn't prune a tree, not kill it? A tree which has historical age of more than 200 years is holding on an embankment. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, we have to continue that abeyance. Boy, I don't know. I feel sorry for Gandhi, truthfully. And some of Jocky's comment, I don't support it at all. Serious. I don't want to get into any other. I don't support it. I don't think people like Jockey has returned to the camp to actually assist what's happening on the ground. And truthfully, I'm saying it live. I think it's out of touch with the realities on the ground. Good night.
I agree with him. I'm not on the ground. I don't live there, and therefore I may be out of touch with the reality. I will just give it to you from my perspective. It does not mean my perspective is right. It's just my perspective. Just I respect yours. You respect mine, and we move on.
Yeah. So we are arriving to the end, Jockey. So it's a pleasure having you here. I think we had a nice time together, and I like the way you answered the questions. I think some of the questions probably I would have I was expecting to get some answers that would educate me, and I think that you have educated me in certain fields. But some of the things that you said is things that I knew, and based on certain technical questions that I asked you, and the caller just called and said that. And as I told you, the PAL rep is not in command in terms of the type of resource people that used to support her late husband.
Yeah.
And it has been said it's a popular thing in the community where everybody's had her, and I'm very sorry for her because I know she just cannot do everything that people would want her to do for them. But there are some PAL reps who do not go through all of these crises that she has been going through in terms of what people are saying about her in the community. Well, I'm on the ground, and I can tell you, if she may win in next election, I'm not too sure, but I think it's not right for me to go over there and to amplify the hardships that people have in regards to do with the PAL rep. So she's not as popular as she used to be when she newly came in, I can tell you. And the caller who just called ought to be somebody who is also concerned about the way people see her in the community. But I hope she can change. She can probably correct her mistakes if she really wants to represent her people in a positive direction. And the type of vibrancy that existed with her husband is a different thing. And as you said earlier on, she was a nurse.
Right.
She has not been a politician nor a leader,
Right.
and she's just learning. So sometimes you have to be a little flexible and try to pray for her and see how can she. I think she's a sister from the community, in spite of she may have her qualities that people may not like, but I think we have to treat her as a human being, and I think that is what you're doing. You don't want to be too radical, Jockey, but you are correct in going over and doing a social description here on that, and I'm very I do see where you're coming from.
But also, let me tell you, no matter who Labour Party sends up in Granby, they're going to win. Period.
You say so?
Yeah. Because Pierrot has built a base here that's still very vibrant in terms of the people at the grassroots level. They're going to vote for Labour. No matter who Labour sends up, they will vote for Labour. Period. That's my opinion. Huh?
Okay, so that you have made that survey.
I've not made a survey. I just know historically how things work in this country.
But you must remember, Mr. Centros was there, and Mr. Fidel gave him a beating.
True.
Avan came in, Juliana came in, Michels was there, and the Freedom Party has entered into thin air. Patrick John was there during Labour, and that party fell,
True.
So no one is an island.
No, but it takes time to make that transition. It doesn't happen overnight.
But remember, Patrick John gave independence to Dominica after 6 months.
Yeah, but Patrick John was a parliamentarian long before independence, huh?
Well, yes, but at those time he didn't have the responsibility. He was scrutinized by Great Britain. We were a colony, and then the type of liberty that he had when he became prime minister, he didn't have it as in quality of a premier.
True, but also remember the circumstances surrounding what happened around Patrick John's time too. Huh?
That's true. That's true.
But you had a massive between the private sector, the unions, and the Freedom Party and the church. They all were against PJ and the Labour Party. And had the Labour Party contested the election, even after PJ fell, if you look at the election results, if you would take the vote counts, if you combine all the Labour votes together, there were 3 parties that went up. They would still have won.
Serious?
Check it out one of those days.
You mean the election when Michels won?
Yes. Just check it out.
But how many seats that Michels obtained?
How many? 15?
I think... no, Granby won, I think, and no, Granby was. I think it's either Portsmouth and St. Joseph. I think the opposition had only 2 seats, if I can recall clearly.
Okay, you had 2 seats and you had 2 independents.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yeah.
But look at the electoral results. For example, let's look at Granby. You take Lava's votes and put it with Pierrot, and Pierrot would have won.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. And that happens in a lot of the constituencies.
Yeah, that's true. But we must also remember the birds and them stayed in power for a huge amount of time in Antigua. And now something has changed, but it took time.
It took electoral reform to get it to change.
Yeah.
You had electoral reform.
Yeah. And recently in Grenada, wipeout. Well, let me ask you, it's a good thing that we have not closed the program, but if a political party wins all the seats, there's no opposition in the House?
No, but the president would appoint senators. If they set up an opposition, the president would. So
the opposition will be set up by the opposition members of the opposition party?
The president will ask people to serve as the opposition.
Anybody? Not necessarily those who are involved in the politics.
No, but usually they take people from the opposition.
Okay. So, but how? But the government has all the powers at the time because he has all the seats.
True, but that's not necessarily good for you, as a government. To have all the seats. You may think it's good.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily.
No. Because people will expect so much from you because of you have all the seats and you have a lot of load over you.
And also, as I always say, diversity is good. You need to have balance. You need to have another point of view. And if you remove that, you could be falling off a cliff and you won't even know.
You think the United Workers' Party is not a well-equipped party to take affairs, in charge of the affairs of the country? Well, some people do,
I tell people, if you look at the 4 years and a half of the United Workers' Party, they achieved a lot in 4 years and a half. They did. Let's be honest. In just 4.5 years, a new party and the things they did, they accomplished quite a bit. The fact that where they are now, it take a lot for them to rebuild. Their base is still there. It's just that I think the party itself, when now that they're not in government, you have less resources coming in, and you get tired too. You do get tired.
Okay, but would you say in terms of the elements of that group of the United Workers' Party, in terms of the educational background, would you say they are highly educated people there?
They had some good quality people there, of course. They did. You just look at some of the people they had in there, were good quality people.
Okay. And you say in the Labour Party, you've got some good quality people as well.
You have some. Yeah, both. I mean, every party, the Freedom Party, every party has some good quality people and have some people who are not that good.
Yeah.
Right. I think sometimes we put square pegs in wrong holes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we feel that we have to give everybody something, and because people are politicians, not statesmen, they feel that they have to get something, and if they don't get, they get a little riled up. I remember Rosie mentioning that to me when he came in. It was the biggest. I asked him, well, do you have a problem with Charles Savarin? No, you have a. He said, no, my problem is not with Charles Savarin, it's with my own people. Everybody wants a ministry, and he couldn't give everybody a ministry, so he put pressure on him.
Yeah. So the same pressure was implied on Pierre Charles, though? A different type of pressure?
I think Pierre Charles was different. I think Pierre Charles, some people felt that because he was not a university graduate, that they were not going to respect him. That he was not fit enough to be in that position. Not appreciating the sacrifices and the contribution he had made for many, many years, more than any one of them that were there could ever do in their lifetime. And they for that reason, I think many of them kind of pulled away, or were not very cooperative, and that's stressful.
So you saying that that helped to frustrate him a little?
Well, wouldn't you be frustrated if your team was not working as a team?
When I say frustrated, I just don't want to use the term, but that helped to have him departing quickly.
I don't know.
I mean, physically.
No, I mean,
because some people say some of the pressure helped him to pass away easier or quicker.
I'm not a medical person, so
you were close to him. Would you say that the pressures that he was going through would enable his health to depreciate faster?
Any human being who's going through undue pressure, psychological, mental,
physical,
of course it's going to affect your health. I mean, it's natural.
Plus, you're already sick.
It's natural.
Okay.
You any one of us that going through pressure is going to affect your physical. There's the mental, the physical, and the spiritual have to be in balance.
Yeah.
When they're off balance, it affects the physical.
That's true. So when he speaks, he would refer to you to the condition that he was with members, his colleagues. Was it painful to understand that? I mean, the way he would relate to the situation to you, because even John Fabian himself told me the same thing after he died. He told me, well, he was not nicely treated and, whatever. Mm-hmm. So when he would speak to you about that situation, how would he speak to you? Would you see any sadness there?
It was either sadness or frustration. More frustration that they couldn't get the other guys to be thinking along the same line.
But without a university background, was he capable of managing the affairs of the country in capacity of Prime Minister?
Yes. Why not?
Was he very...
The guy came there with experience, community experience. He had leadership experience. He's the man who built back... When Mike Douglas died, it was Pierre Charles who built back the party, He was the one in Armour who went all over the island mobilizing the branches and bringing the party back to what it was. So how is it that he can do all those things and he say he can't be the leader? It doesn't make sense. As long as you have a good team around you. The old man Bird was not a university graduate. Many of the old guys who ran the country were not. Eoli Blanc was not a university graduate. And they were good leaders.
The old man Bird was a doctor, no?
Old man Bird? No.
Yeah,
no.
In Antigua?
No.
Yeah, doctor.
They may have given him an honorary doctorate.
Okay.
But not that he went to school.
Okay.
He was a trade union person.
Okay. So you're saying that Pierre Charles went through some hard times?
Some challenging times as a politician in government.
Okay. And we as Granburians, are you saying that we are concerned about what he went through?
Yeah, I think people are. I mean, they may not voice it. But you see, Granby people know Pierre Charles. They know... this is a man who grew up in the community. Everybody knows what Pierre Charles had done. Everybody knows Pierre Charles from boyhood to farm to market to National Youth Council. To everything he has been involved in, he's been in the community. People know it.
But while he was Prime Minister, do you know that his popularity in the community was dropping?
No, I didn't know
well,
that.
Crispin was aware.
Well, why was it dropping?
That's
In
what I
your
don't
opinion?
know. That's what I don't know.
Is it that people were making too many demands that he could not meet?
Well, that you'll have to tell me.
All right. I don't know. I'm asking because people have a tendency that, you see, we as a society, huh?
Because Crispin told me yes.
Let me tell you, we as a society, I've come to realize that we as a society, we come to the point where we have become so dependent on politicians that all we hear is, well, what are you going to do for me? What's the council going to do for me? What's the parliament going to do for me? What's the government going to do for me? We never talk about what we're going to do for ourselves. We have become very dependent. It's almost as though it's a drug. And this is dangerous for us. Because any drug addict, if you withdraw the drug, he'll turn on you. He'll get angry.
But it should be the responsibility of the government to educate the people and do some reforms. Like, for example, there are some people who deserve welfare or deserve certain social support.
True.
And there are some people who may benefit materials to fix their house, and they
who
can
don't
probably
deserve it
Yeah.
and get it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I talked about that too, and they gave me blows for it too. I condemned it. I condemned it.
I understood it happens there.
It happens all over, and I have condemned it. I think we people take advantage of the benefits that are there for people who really deserve it. Some get it, others don't. It's not equitable, and we need to put a system in place that makes it equitable. But as long as, in my opinion, as long as it's politicians who are directing what happens, no matter which party is there, it's going to have these inequalities. You're going to have this problem.
But
you need to let the public servants do their job.
You are right, but sometimes it is difficult to collaborate with the public servants.
Why?
Sometimes the red tape discourages you. For example, you go for something at the ministry and you bypass the people that you have to deal with and you check the minister. It materializes quicker.
True. So you're telling me in effect that leave the system broke as it is and continue functioning throughout the next 100 years with a broken system. Don't fix it because the politician will short circuit it.
Well, what I'm saying is not only the politician that needs to be trained, but also the PS, the civil servant in general.
Well, here's what I'm saying. I am saying that we need at the ministry level to retrain and revisit our processes, our workflows to see, because as public servants and as politicians, we're supposed to be there to serve the people, not the people to serve us. So we need to focus more on how do we make things more efficient. If the country is going to grow, we have to work towards making things more efficient. But we cannot leave it as it is and say, well, it's not working properly and therefore you have to go to the politician and leave it like that. It doesn't make sense.
But the politician has to implement his powers and say, I need that to change.
That is true.
But sometimes he wants it that way for political mileage.
True. And if your politician is a good manager and understands those things, he will build a team that will empower people to do the things right. You're going to excite people about doing things right,
Yeah.
It's how you approach the thing.
But you see, as you say, Jockey, we are very young. I lived in Guadeloupe, I lived in France, and I can tell you the system. You need certain things done. You just have to go to the office responsible. You fill a form. They have to tell you how long it's going to take you for you to get a response.
Exactly.
And they will tell you what to do. So there is no minister who knows you.
So why can't we be like that?
Yeah, but we're small. We're small and young.
True, we're small and young. And that is where, again, I go back to our school system and efficiency. How do we train our young people to be efficient, to be productive, and to do things right? Not to take shortcut and cut and paste their things, but to work hard. How do we train our people like that? If our teachers themselves are taking shortcuts and are not efficient, then they cannot teach efficiency.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I had some difficulties with my credit card at the bank, and I went to a certain office and tried to speak to see how can I get some assistance in and the lady I spoke to, she started to smile about my failures on her face as though it was the happiest thing. Boy, Mr. loses money, and she's enjoying that. So I said, but where am I? It's like people have pleasure in seeing their compatriots suffer, fall into the ground. And this is very, very primitive. And
customer relations is not about that. Customer relations is about looking at the helping the customers best you can.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
and sometimes you call a phone and then You ask to speak to somebody, the phone rings, or hold on a while, I'm going to see.
Yeah.
You hear all the conversation within the
Yeah.
staff, and you still have the phone in, listening, and it takes you a while before they come back. Sometimes you get to, you just put off the phone.
Well, I've gone to ministry to get something done, and you know how they operate. They come back, and I'm very nice to them.
Yeah.
I tell them, I can wait, I'll wait. So
Yes.
when they're tired of seeing me sitting here waiting, then
They'll
they'll attend to me. But it calls for a lot of patience, and many people don't have that level of patience. They get angry, and rightly so.
Yeah, I think we need to really transform all of these things, you know, and I would understand, you know, another thing I suspect in the French countries, you know, if you are from Granby, some of the school teachers are not from Granby. They send them to a different community, because if you have any hardship with a parent there, or you don't know that person.
Right.
So they do that because of that. Some incidents has arose because of that person is the school teacher. He teaches my son, and he's my enemy. You know, so that child. It's probably the teacher might teach the child correctly, but there is a psychological frustration there, because that child belongs to my enemy, and the son or the daughter knows that she's my mother's enemy. So you cannot focus. So these are the type of things I think we need to be not necessarily that, but it's just to bring a little opening to what you're saying. I think we need to do some reforms. We need to, otherwise we'll collapse.
Yeah, we got to fix the system. We cannot say it's not working and leave it broke. Let us fix it, and those
We
things
have to
cannot be
fix it.
fixed. It can be fixed. It just takes, you have to have the political will
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah. So otherwise, Dominica is still good. The level of violence compared to some of the Caribbean countries, we're still not as high as them.
True.
So we can preserve that. And one thing I know about people who have came to Granby and Dominica, especially the French people that I am close to, you'll say, boy, Dominica is one of the most sweetest places they have been to. The people are so friendly.
Yeah. you
People
hear it all
do.
over.
People do have a love for strangers more than their own selves. You
Yeah.
understand? And we have something in us that the tourists, the Ministry of Tourism can use
Yeah,
as a form of industry.
it's true.
You know,
And you know, you talk about tourism and friendliness, and I also look at Geneva and say Geneva and the whole Grand Bay district area needs to become a whole tourism site. And I was talking to Sober SP about it. We really need to make it to develop these areas. And again, you look at people like Gary Head and so on board to bring the sheep, the people from the ship up here.
yeah.
But Geneva has the potential to develop as a good tourism site. Huh?
Yeah.
We just have not moved on it.
Yeah.
But we need to do it. I'd like to say the whole Geneva Works building. We have talked about that so long, it hasn't happened.
But you know, Péditon has a beautiful site
Right.
where Pomp lives, and it's so lovely.
Yeah.
And I think this is a beautiful, but probably the road system need to be improved. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, you need to reopen that road, really.
Yeah.
You really
And you have a lot of land in that area too.
Yep,
Yeah.
for agriculture.
Yeah. So I think GTEC is trying their best over there to see what they can do. But I think the Ministry of Tourism should come here and see how can, because Granby is left. We are really not getting
No,
a slice from the cake
no.
that the Prime Minister promised us during the last election. He said we'd get a big slice, and I don't believe we have received it. And it's only 1 year remaining for general elections. I don't want to blame him, because as you said, sometimes they're trying to, feed all of the other constituencies, which is huge, and the demands is so challenging. But he promised us half of the cake last time, and I think we have received the police station. And what else?
But do you know that the police station was supposed to be in Lally? You know that?
No, I never knew that.
They were supposed to buy Alpha Richard's place. That's where it's supposed to go. Because we had, I don't know if you were there when we had the consultation with Eugenia Child's government.
No, I can remember.
When
that.
they brought up the SSU with the guns to go down Lally. You were not there?
No, I can't. No, I was in Guadeloupe probably.
All right. So they came up after the SSU came up and walked down Lally in the day. The second day, the cabinet came up and met with us at the community center. And I remember more than one person recommending that the police station be placed in Lally. But they placed it way up there. So
Yeah, but would it be good there?
in Lally? Of course. It's in the heart of the community. You need it in the heart of the community.
Yeah,
You
but
don't want it too distant away from the community.
remember at the time that when some people would have see a police, it would stir a type of hatred, a type of violence atmosphere, and
So how is putting it up? You're going to improve on that and change that. Though?
Well, probably they're looking for the police security by isolating them from the community itself.
No, police is supposed to be friendly to the community. So police has to build a relationship with the community.
But the community also have to build a relationship with the police.
And for the community policing thing that they had started, it broke down. But I remember Willie and them were working with the police. You have to send the right kind of policemen up here too. You cannot send any policemen to Grand Bay.
Yeah, because Grand Bay is based on what Crispin told me, we ought to be coming from Nigeria. Jamaicans as well.
but historically, Grand Bay has been a very independent, rebellious, in a good sense, kind of for our history. You look at the Geneva Estate and the rebellion.
Well, for collective interest, we do rally together, but that has faded away, though. No, I don't think it's as...
it's not as good as it used to be.
No.
True, that is true. But remember, our younger generation more into the bling and their own little selves, huh? That's texting and things. So they're not. You don't get people coming together and discussing as we used to have.
Yeah. But I think something needs to be happening here to transform the community, because even in culture we are not as vibrant as Peebush.
Yeah, I mean, yes, true. Charlie Bell is not as vibrant as it used to be.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't. Well, the only group musicians we have here is Michael Henderson, who gives us an international representation now and then, and Chobi of the Midnight Rovers. I mean, local groups based here. Michael is based in Tepon, Abasso, and Chobi is based at Bamako, and these are the two major groups, representing. And we have to say hats up to Chobi and Michael for what they're doing, know. And we at Radio Bamako, we're trying to do what we can do with little resources, with the little that we have, and some people are proud of us.
And hats off to you. I mean, all these years, you have survived. I know it's challenging when you have survived all these years. I really have to commend you on that. It's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not an easy thing at all. I think if I had gathered all my economy and did something else, I would be more comfortable. I could be retired today and relaxing and chilling and taking a tourist boat ride. But my ambition and love for community and love for your president, patriotism that I've got, sometimes prevent me from being selfish. And sometimes it's hurtful to see the people don't recognize that. They tend to believe that you're wealthy when you're ambitious. But that's not that. Things are not rosy as people may think. And it's not only with me, and if many other businesses are wrong. Well,
the business in the country is slow. I mean, all over the country it's bad.
It's bad. Well, I don't know for Marigot.
It is bad.
So how?
But someone told me, why there wasn't much violence for the carnival?
Yes.
I got enough money to buy rum. But that was a funny one.
Well, no, I think there's a change, a cultural change. Something has happened. I saw kids, young children on the road. The police was linemen in uniform. Police talking to everybody, And even Sanse gave police sweetie. They gave the inspector a lollipop. That would not have been that before.
No.
And when 10 o'clock arrived, everything closed. The police went to shops where music was being played, and they asked them to close. The time has arrived, and there was cooperation.
And they need to give positive reinforcement and thank people for it, so that it can continue. If it just happens and we don't encourage people to continue along that vein, then it's going to fall back to.
And we have to thank Sakis, because Sakis, when Sakis sees there's any problem, they would stop, and they would respect the law. They work with the law, and Sakis is well organized, and it's also a famous group that we need to recommend. They have been doing a great thing. They not only playing in Grand Bay, they have been active at the World Quail Festival in Ruzo. So they're representing us,
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. So, Jockey, you don't speak Creole, though?
A little.
You don't speak it? No?
I speak it a little. When we were at home, we were not allowed to speak Creole. My parents didn't allow us to speak Creole. So then when I started learning French, and I learned some Creole. And then.
So you speak French fluently?
I used to.
I
used to teach it.
Okay.
And then I spent the summer at Lycée Bembridge.
Oh.
French.
Okay, you went to school.
Dr. Muller had sent me up there one summer.
Okay, okay.
Judith Pestina and I, Judith Garraway.
Yes, but she speaks French fluently too.
She used to.
Yeah. I don't know if she's still active, if she does it well still. Sonia Akpa is a good French speaker too.
Yep.
Ophelia or Marie Lefache, her husband too, Mr. Marie.
Yes.
They speak French.
Because they're involved in it, it's their business.
And Gordon Henderson is one of the best French speaker from Dominica, He speaks French fluently and correctly, grammatically, well correct. So, Jockey, he's related to you too, I think, Gordon.
Yeah. Gordon's grandfather and my father were brothers.
Okay.
You know Maluk and them by them?
I know Maluk, yeah.
Right. So Gordon's father, Mr. Luke is Gordon's grandfather.
Okay.
So Gordon's father and J.K. Henderson were brothers.
Okay. But as though Gordon told me his father came from Delices.
No.
Probably he was...
Maybe he lived there, but
yeah.
If you listen to Gordon talk and he's talking very slow,
yes.
You listen to J.K. Henderson talk, they talk the same way.
Okay.
Dragging slowly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's in France now. I think he does teaching there, English.
Okay.
Yeah. Last time I met him, he told me that. Jockey, thank you for coming, man.
My pleasure.
And any other time that we need your service, we'll call on you again.
No problem. And keep up the good work that you're doing.
Thank you, Jockey.
Okay, bro.
And all the best.
All right.
Et comprendre que nous ne pouvons pas rester attendre. Nous traverser toutes choses et voler à dans grand savant.